My phone on silent.
Okay. About 30 seconds, we will be starting our meeting. All right, thank you, Dwayne.
Have a copy now. You've got a copy over there.
If everyone would check your mics, please, and also welcome to the March 18th meeting. If you would, everyone, please cut your phone on silent. And as always, we will start with a word of prayer, and Will will lead us in the pledge. So if you would, everybody, please stand. Let us pray. Father, Lord, as we come to you this morning, we just thank you for your kindness, Lord, that you give us daily. We thank you for your blessings that you provide for us, Lord, that we do not even ask or even know about. But Father, as we come to do the business of Madison County, Lord, we just ask that you would be in every decision that is made by this board. And Father, we thank you for where we live today, Lord. We just thank you for the blessings you've already bestowed upon us, Lord. But most of all, Father, we just thank you for being our Lord and Savior. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Will?
Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on the, Mr. Lott.
Yes, Mr. President, you have before you the March the 4th board minutes. I would ask if there are no changes. I know Mr. Brandon did not get his, but I understand him not wanting to vote on it, but please approve said minutes.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Move.
Got a motion, Mr. Banks, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Griffin. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Abstain?
Okay, moving on to concerned citizens.
Change.
Everyone on the list is here for item 4.
Okay, thank you. Schedule matters, business matters. Stephanie Smith. Stephanie, as she comes, coming through the door. Good morning, Stephanie.
Excuse me.
Glad you're here with us this morning. Give us an update.
What I just handed him was a
Do you mind speaking in the mic?
Sure. Excuse
Thank
me.
you.
I'm passing around a letter from our firm, which it basically says our work with you is complete. Back in July of 2023, we were hired by the Board of Supervisors and K-PACE to do some forensic services. They were mandated because of some audit findings from the fiscal year that ended in 2021. Our report, which came out in November, talked about 4 major deficiencies which we found, and we addressed all of those. We brought the reconciliation issues forward through the end of 2023. Did some things that were specific to the change in administration, made sure that all of the tax payments were made correctly through January of 2024, which was the December 2023 collections. We did cash counts at the end of December, as mandated by, I think, statute. We have since reconciled accounts through the end of February, and I feel like our work is done. There were no new findings. Also, I met with the new tax collector several times, and we thought we might have a continuing relationship with that office, but he was able to hire some new personnel, which he thinks will be able to handle those duties. And that is certainly the best situation, and so we're available to help him if he needs it. We're available to answer any additional questions if they come up, but I think our work is complete.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. I know you had a lot to do at the very beginning, and you did it very timely.
Thank you.
But if you would, just kind of expand a little on the end results as far as any money's missing, everything is okay?
We did not find any money missing. We found, there were four main areas we addressed. One was the interlocal agreements where money had been paid to the wrong municipalities based on some misapplication of those interlocal agreements. So those things happened. The interlocal agreement with Canton had not been applied properly, and we addressed that. But no money was missing in that regard. There was a huge backlog of refunds, and I would say that at the end of the year, in November and December, probably 600 refunds were issued.
So those are taken care of?
As far as I can
For the
tell, those
year
are taken care of.
2023.
Yes. The main issue we found from the end, for 2023 and into 2024 was just very sloppy accounting,
Right.
and so that took some effort to clean up. And at the end of into February of 2024, there's still funds in those accounts for the former tax collector. The new tax collector has opened new accounts for his term. There's still money in those accounts. I believe that it represents outstanding checks that have been out. Some are very current, but many go way, way back. And so
Okay.
I think those accounts should stay open for a while. And I'm certain that there are some rules about how to close those. And I think the Board of Supervisors holds that money in trust.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure of that. I haven't fully researched that. I've been told that.
Okay.
Okay?
And also, maybe this is the right time for Mike to come up, because we want to go back up and talk about the city of Canton now, as
Sure.
far as the MOU. And if you would, just stay up as well.
Please stay there.
Yeah.
Good morning, Board.
Morning.
So, thank you for taking me out of order.
Yes.
This is item number 46 on the agenda. I want to start by thanking Stephanie and her CPA firm for working with me so diligently and also the administrator on the Canton matter. So, she talked about monies being misapplied from the tax collector regarding the city of Canton. And in
Right.
particular, one episode related to the misapplication of funds related to two interlocal agreements that the board had with the city of Canton, specifically regarding the misapplication of commissions. So, in detail, we had two interlocal agreements with the city of Canton where the tax collector was supposed to, within the course of her duties of collecting ad valorem taxes from the city of Canton and deducting the commissions due the tax assessor and the tax collector, our tax collector was supposed to remit to Canton the remainder of the commissions. That was not done. So it amounted to a good bit of money. So from 2009 to 2023, the CPA found that there was a misapplication of funds to the extent of $483,290.73. So these are funds that should have gone from the tax collector to the city of Canton that did not go there.
Right.
So when it came to my attention, I was concerned that the issue of the statute of limitations was involved, and I was concerned that the county might not have been able to apply all of the funds due to Canton, more than the ones that were more than 3 years old. So I made a recommendation to be on the safe side, two things. The ones that were not 3 years old, that we would go forward and remit those monies, and that recommendation was approved, and the board did remit to Canton $882.02. So that was done. My second recommendation was just be on the safe side, that we will write the Attorney General's office to ask the question whether the 3-year statute of limitations applied to debts between municipalities in the county or local government. So I will praise Mr. Banks that when I made the recommendation at the time, he already knew the answer. He said that it does not apply, and he's right. So we did receive the AG's opinion February 7, 2024. I received the AG's opinion, and it's on the agenda.
Right.
And it basically says that it does not apply. The 3-year statute of limitations does not run against local governments or in debts between each other. I believe Mr. Banks said they were a sister government, and he's right. So I'd like the board to acknowledge the AG's opinion of February 7th, 2024, where it basically says that we are authorized to remit to Canton the remainder of the remittances not given to it beyond the $88,000. And so you'll check my math, but I'm looking at your figures. So it says that we owed Canton $483,290.73. We paid $882.02, which leaves a balance of $394,408.71 that this county should have remitted to Canton based on the ad valorem tax commissions that we did not, the tax collector did not remit to it. And that's my recommendation, that we do that.
All right, let's first of all take the motion, Supervisor Baxter, if you will, the AG's opinion.
I'll second Supervisor Baxter on
All
the
right, that's the
AG's
first
opinion.
motion let's take. And so we got a motion, a second discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Second motion is to, well, do we have a second motion of the $394,000?
I'd like to make that motion to remit that money to City of Canton.
Okay, we have a motion from Supervisor Banks, second from Supervisor Griffin to actually give the city of Canton $394,408.71.
Yes. Okay.
And that will reimburse them in full from 2008 to the day.
Based on the CPA records, it will.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion, have a second, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Deputy, thank you a lot. Know you had a lot of work to do, and you did it. So we appreciate it.
I want to talk to CJ for a minute.
Working with the county, and I will be available if you have any other questions.
Okay, thank you. CJ, while you up, I know you're coming up later, but also, we have a letter here as well. We'd like to have a motion to enter into the minutes as well from Stephanie
Move.
as well. So we have a motion, Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Griffin. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
CJ, come on up for just a second.
Ronnie,
Let me-
this
Let
is
me
the
talk
letter.
to you for just a second.
Oh, hold on one second, Supervisor Baxter.
Exhibit
This
A.
is the letter. You have a copy of this?
Our Exhibit A, yes, sir.
Okay, Supervisor
I
Baxter.
want to talk to you for just a second. Going forward with the new accounting firm, what practices are y'all putting in place to make sure this doesn't happen again? The bookkeeping and whatnot?
Well, we don't, there's no new accounting firm. I hired an accountant.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
And that's her sole responsibility is reconciling the bank accounts.
Okay.
She has 30 years of accounting and financial management experience. So I'm pretty sure that she can handle that.
Okay. Is there anything else that you found inside that office that you guys can work to improve a little bit? I mean, I just want to make sure we're not going to be back in this place.
There's a lot to improve on.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'd need to sit down and put it. It'd be a long list. Honestly, there's a lot to improve on. I wouldn't want to go into that right now.
Okay. Well,
You can definitely call me and we can talk about it.
I'd like to, okay, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Come by the office when we get done.
Going forward, maybe we could talk off the record, then you come up here and, because this was a long process to get out of this mess. So.
And the past 2 months have been challenging. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot that needs to be, we got a lot of progress to make. We've done that so far, but there's a lot more to be made. There's no doubt.
I appreciate your work.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you, CJ.
Yeah.
All right, next on the list is Mr. Carter. You're up to bring us some great news.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I am Tommy Carden with Butler Snow, and we're privileged to serve as your federal lobbyist, work with you on your interest in Washington. And I am pleased, Mr. President, to be able to report this morning that, that we've completed, or Congress has completed the budget process partially. They're still fussing and fighting over some other appropriations, but thankfully, they have finally approved the appropriations that affect Madison County in our interest. And along those lines, I'm pleased to report to you that Congress has approved $5 million towards the Bozeman Reunion Crossing Interconnectivity System, the whole project. We had asked for $7.5 million. And we were fortunate enough to work through the process and end up with $5 million, which of course is will be a very big help to that whole process. Also, thanks to Congressman Guest and Congressman Thompson on the House side, we were able to secure $4 million towards the stormwater and wastewater treatment throughout the county. Dealing with the wastewater issues over in West Madison and stormwater issues in South Madison County. So that was a total this time of $9 million, which is going to help the whole process. Let me just give you a recap of where we are in terms of total funding that has been secured so far. We've been real fortunate because we're 3 years in a row, 3 fiscal years in a row now in terms of securing funding. That was FY 22, 23, and now 24. The total amount that has been secured for the Bozeman Reunion Crossing project as a whole is $16 million. There is $3 million that has been secured to go to Reunion Parkway Crossing, just in and of itself. And then the $4 million for the, it's called WRDA. You know, everything in D.C. has an acronym, Water Resources Development Act. That's wastewater and stormwater. And so we have $4 million there. That's a total of $23 million that your congressional delegation has secured for you over the past 3 fiscal years. And that's significant. And I think it represents quite a commitment to the county and what you're doing and the progress that you continue to make. Now, of course, that's separate and apart from the $25 million of the NRCS fund that have come in for the flooding in and around Canton and that area. So when you look at the overall picture, the county, I think, is doing very well in terms of securing federal dollars for the projects that you have before you. This has been a team effort, continues to be a team effort. All the members of the board attorney, Mr. Espy, Greg as county administrator, I bug him about how much money we've got and how much things are going to cost just of all the time, and he's always so responsive and appreciate that. But also our engineers who work with us, and then as well as your county engineer. But your congressional delegation has really stepped up. They've been very receptive. On the House side, Congressman Guest and Congressman Thompson always are receptive and responsive to us. And on the Senate side, Senator Hyde-Smith and Senator Wicker, both of them have been very committed to the causes of the county and supporting the county going forward. So along those lines, we will continue. We've got more to do. Now we want to go for an ask for FY25. That budget process is starting up now in terms of securing funding for the next fiscal year. Our recommendation is that you authorize us to go forward and seek a $10 million request for the Bozeman Reunion Crossing Interconnectivity System, the project as a whole. And then also on the WRDA side, the stormwater and the wastewater, we would recommend that you authorize us to seek $6 million there. And the reason for that is on the WRDA side, you have a total authorization of $10 million. And the way this works in terms of the federal funds on the WRDA side, you have to have an authorization first, then you draw down against that authorization in terms of appropriations. So you've got a $10 million authorization. You've got $4 million now that has been appropriated, so that leaves $6 million. We recommend that we ask for the full amount. We'd also like to recommend that we ask for an increase in that authorization from $10 million to $20 million. So that we can keep that process going on and continue to ask for additional funds as we go forward. So, Mr. President, I would recommend that the board authorize us to make those asks for FY25, and also authorize the board members and the board attorney for the travel to make a trip to D.C. to visit with the congressional delegation and make these asks. Let me just point out along those lines, I think it's been very helpful for us to develop the relationship with the delegation over these last several years. And as a result, we have developed a good rapport, and I think they expect to see us there. And they expect us to be asking for things. And they're very responsive, and so we need to continue developing that and working along those lines, and we would ask for your support in doing that.
Okay. Tommy, we heard you very clearly for the ask, and I'm going to make this in form of a motion. The ask is for $10 million for the internet connectivity for the Bozeman Road reunion crossing in Phase 3. That's for the ask there, and then $6 million for the ask for the water deal with $6 million, and then also asked for the board to move forward as far as going, next month. I think it's next month is scheduled to go to D.C.
Right.
Was there another ask?
The $20 million, the increase in the
Authorization.
authorization from 10 to 20 million on the WRDA side.
And that's the 219.
That's correct. That's the 219 fund.
Okay, and add that ask as well from 10 to 20 million.
Yes, sir.
So that would be my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion, have a second, discussion?
I got a little discussion. What, explain to me what the process is with, I know earmarks went away, but there's a new terminology for earmarks, and what is the process for achieving that funding?
Trey, you're exactly right. It is a new, it's the wording now, earmarks on the Senate side, they're referred to as congressionally directed spending, okay? On the House side, it's community project funding request. So that's the technical terminology for the earmarks. The way that process works is each senator and member of the House has their own internal process. They receive requests, and they take those requests and they process those requests and prioritize the ones that they're going to choose to make, and then they submit those to the respective committees, and then they get feedback from the committees, and then they interact with us along the way based on that feedback they're getting, and sometimes we have to adjust the amount depending on what kind of feedback they're getting from the committees, and then it goes before the committee, and the committee approves it, comes out of committee, then it goes to the full chamber. That full chamber approves it, and then they swap, and the other chamber has to approve it, and that's when the process is finalized.
So the money we got for the fiscal year 2023, was that quote-unquote earmarks?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everything we've gotten since FY22, because that's when earmarks kind of started coming back, everything we have secured has been in that form along those lines.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Tommy, again, of course, we have a motion on the floor. Let's go ahead and vote on the motion. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor?
That's
Aye. Aye. All opposed? Tommy, I want to appreciate you and your team as well as far as leading the charge because we do have a good partnership, and it's showed over the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years. And you're exactly right. When we go up and meet Congressman Guest and Congressman Thompson, they're very inviting. They always have an open ear to listen to what our needs are, and they been very helpful. And also Senator Hyde Smith, Senator Wicker, they're in a great shape, position-wise, to help as well, and they have stepped up to the plate as well over these last 3 or 4 years for Madison County. But it takes a partnership. It takes all of us to do it, and we want to thank you and your team and Wagner Engineering as well, because they play a big role in this as well. Once we get up there, they play a huge role in this as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Mike?
Okay. Mr. President, Mr. Espy reminded me, since we're on a roll asking for funds, there is an additional, there's $150 million authorization on the USDA side for all of the, the flooding projects and the things that we've been working on.
Right.
And he suggested that we go ahead and put that on the list as well, and I see no reason why we shouldn't.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Move.
Motion Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Griffin. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We have a lot of ask.
We
There's
do,
no
Mr.
doubt, but
President.
it's
We're
good.
not shy about asking, are we?
Not shy about asking. You're exactly right.
Very good. Well, you don't need to be. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
The time I had one thing.
Sir.
We hadn't talked about it yet, but the County Line Road, the 5-lane County Line Road from the railroad tracks across in front of Tougaloo out toward 49, all the way to 49. I think that is something that we need to put on our list to start looking at seeing how we can make that happen with what we got in the investment going on Highland Colony and along Livingston with AWS. I think it's important that we get ahead of that.
Okay.
Okay. So
I appreciate that, Mr. Banks, and that needs to be, if that's a board priority, that's certainly a priority that we will pursue. We act at your direction in terms of those priorities, and we'll pursue whatever you tell us to
can
do.
do the form of motion.
I'll tell you what let's do, if you don't mind it, Mr. Banks. Let's get something, because I know that's down in mine in your area. Why don't we work on, get something and bring back to the board?
That'll work.
And then let's all look at it one time.
Yeah, I will say this. It's one of the things that's really important in this whole process, y'all. One of the things that the delegation is looking for when we approach them is what kind of progress are you making towards completion of what you're already asking for.
Right.
And so if we can demonstrate, the progress that we're making on particularly the Bozeman overall project that we've been working on, that really helps us in terms of being able to justify and secure additional funding for that project. So that in terms of our priorities, that's where they are right now. Mm-hmm. And if we can keep going in that direction and then develop additional priorities as we go along, I think that's a good way to go.
That's a good point.
Counselor.
Yes, sir.
Going back to the federal funds for Bozeman Road, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, you can email me, what are the stipulations, a time frame, and as far as getting those funds used for widening Bozeman Road? Do you know? I know that's a specific question, you have to fire off the top of your head, but I want to make sure we're not bumping into any timelines as far as using the money to get Bozeman under construction.
Mr. Baxter, I'm not aware of any problems with those timelines right now. That's really a question for the engineers that we would need to get together with them on, and we do follow along with them on that. I will say in terms of the project, the money that's been dedicated to Union Parkway Crossing, I know that's fine, that's on track. Mm-hmm. And then the other funds, are dedicated to the project as a whole, to give you the flexibility to use them where they're needed. And from what I'm aware of right now, there are no timeline issues there. We will follow up with the engineers, and I'll follow up with you and let you know if they tell me anything differently.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, next on the list we have, let me see, public hearing. Mm-hmm. Mr. Weeks, you want to say anything before we go into the public hearing? Do I have a motion to go into a public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Baxter. Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are now in the public hearing on the Stokes Road shell. Who, first up, Steve?
Yes,
I think
sir.
before we do, I would like for Andy Clark to come up and just get us started. Steve, if you will, let him come up and say a couple of words. And if you will, just kind of brief us on what this
Yes, sir.
public hearing's about.
Yes, sir. Initially, this came before the Planning and Zoning Commission as a site plan approval for a Shell convenience store. At our first meeting, the question was raised as to the propriety of the zoning of the subject property, whether or not it was in fact zoned as C2 and thereby allowing any convenience store. Some questions were raised there, valid questions, that Scott and I both did some digging and research on. We came to the conclusion that the property is C2, and let me tell you just very briefly why we do that, or how we came to that. So at some point in time, and I mean back in the 50s, 60s, whatever, there was, Madison County was just property. There wasn't really any particular zoning districts. I think in 1964, the legislature basically said, okay, counties, if you guys want to bust your property up into zoning districts, you can do so through a process called comprehensive zoning. Based on what I can find, Madison County went and at various intersections, major intersections in the county, they sort of put a green dot on a map as property that could be considered commercial. This intersection here being one. But I do not find, and what Sheriff Trowbridge or whoever may be speaking on his behalf today is probably going to tell you, I do not find any formal request anywhere in the minutes or in the Chancery Clerk's records of a formal request to change this property from anything over to C2. But I tell you all that to say that, in my opinion, that does not matter, because as far back as we can find, and we have a map over here going back to 1976, is the oldest that we can find, where the property is specifically designated as C2 on the official zoning map for the county. And at every point coming forward from 1976 up until your last one in 2019, whenever the county would amend the ordinance, adopt a new official zoning map, all of those types of things that you did in November of 2019 for our current 2019 ordinance. This is what we're traveling under. That property has been designated as C2. There was notice published in the paper for the adoption of the official zoning map, all of the procedures that you normally follow. So as it stands right now, I can specifically say that the property is properly zoned C2. So with that in mind, and with that advice giving to the Planning and Zoning Commission, they approved this site plan unanimously. Obviously, there were some people that were aggrieved by that decision, and as is their right, they filed a notice of appeal,
Right.
and that's what we're here on today.
Okay. Are there questions for Randy from the board?
So what are the objections from,
Just gotta be right.
just real quick, your opinion on the objections from the opposition?
I think you'll hear some arguments today regarding the zoning that I just described to you. I think you're going to hear some definite concerns about traffic safety in that area of 463 and Stokes Road area, Livingston Vernon area. you may hear some arguments of concerns as to the proximity of this location to other structures, be the house, there's a church out there, some of those other issues, which are, obviously, those are issues for you guys to decide and to determine. But as far as the site plan itself, I see no issue with the zoning, and I see no issue with the procedure that has been brought forth for the approval of the site plan itself. So,
Are there other questions? If not, we will start with Mr. Steve Smith. And Steve, if you would come up and state your name, address, and who you represent.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is Steve Smith, and I'm an attorney from Jackson. I'm here today on behalf of the Rav Betty family pursuant to our application, their application for construction of the Stokes Road Shell convenience store. This is an application for a site plan, and a site plan only. If you would allow me at this time, I'm going to hand some documents to the clerk at request that they place into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
I'm also going to be handing you all a copy of the same documents.
Thank you.
Our application for our site plan for construction of the convenience store was filed back in October. It is for the construction, as I said, of the Stokes Road Shell convenience store. And it is on property that is zoned C2. This property has been zoned C2 since at least July of 1976, as Mr. Clark told you. I came up here a week or two ago, met with Mr. Clark, met with Mr. Weeks, trying to look into the issue because of the fact that this was raised so vehemently before Planning and Zoning Commission. In Plat Cabinet A23, you'll see that this property is zoned C2. Before you, I've given you a tax assessor map, which has got a yellow circle or outline showing our property. You've also got a zoning map showing this property zone C2, which Mr. Weeks and Mr. Clark helped me get. You've also got a future land use map from your current land use map. And then you've got an item from the planning and zoning hearing that the objectors put into the record. It's a land use plat, and it also shows the property zone C2. Now, a little bit about the project. This property is 5.96 acres. The building is proposed to be 5,200 square feet, plus or minus a little. It will be an all-brick building. It will be a standalone building for the store only. There will be no additional building for lease space. This building will be a building by itself. It'll be a standalone. The lighting plan was questioned by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that lighting plan has been specifically designed by Daniel Wooldridge to make sure that the light on this property stays on the property based on the type of lighting fixtures. We will be using directional fixtures to make sure the light stays on our property. You'll also be interested to know that there are no entries and no exits to this property off of Highway 22. So nobody's pulling off Highway 22 onto our property. Nobody's pulling off of our property on Highway 22. The vehicle traffic out there, once our project is developed, will be the existing routes to entries and exits as they are currently used. You'll also note in looking at the maps I've given you that that our property is adjacent to other properties out there that are specifically zoned as C2 also. We started our process in November of 2023 before the Planning and Zoning Commission. Trust me, there were numerous issues that Planning and Zoning looked into and that we were required to respond to, such as the architecture, and I'll touch on that later, landscaping, setbacks, lighting, traffic, zoning, and all of the other aspects that you're required to meet to obtain site plan approval. We went back and addressed all of those issues and specifically developed a site plan, which is also in the record. Developed a lighting plan. We came back in front of Planning and Zoning on January 11th of 2024. And in the face of the continued allegations that this property is somehow now 45 years after the fact, not Zone C2, we showed Planning and Zoning, Mr. Weeks, Mr. Clark, showed Planning and Zoning that it's been Zone C2 from what they can find on the official map of Madison County as C2 since 1976. The Planning and Zoning looked at all other criteria that we were required to meet in order to obtain a site plan and unanimously approved our site plan. The building itself, like I said, is all brick, and it is consistent with what you'll find in downtown Flora, and it's also consistent with the commercial structures you'll find at Livingston Township. So if someone wants to say it's out of character or doesn't belong, that's not going to be the case, because you can look at downtown Flora, which we did, and you can look at Livingston Township and see the commercial buildings, which are all brick and very nicely done. When you look at your zoning ordinances, and specifically Section 2201, you'll find that convenience stores are allowed outright as a permitted use. It's not a conditional use. It's not a variance. It's not anything else. It's 2201 subsection G. It says convenience stores are allowed as a matter of right. So it's not as if we're asking the board to make a decision based on some other provision that might have to be met in the ordinance. This use is allowed, per se. And going further, it must be remembered too, and I think you'll probably hear some comments from the objectors, at least they were espoused heavily before P&Z, about what went on in 61 or 64 or 76 or whatever. Well, the honest to goodness truth, it really doesn't matter. It matters, but what has occurred is this board has adopted a new comprehensive plan, a new zoning ordinance, a new zoning map, and all four elements that go with a new comprehensive plan. And guess what? On your zoning map, our property is zoned C2. Now, that occurred in 2019, and if my numbers serve me right, I'm now in 2024. You had a hearing back then, public hearing, you had public notice, you had public publication, and anybody who wanted to come and object to our property being designated as C2 could have come, they could have objected, and they could have appealed. But guess what? Nobody did. Our property zoned C2 under your 2019 comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance and zoning map, and no appeal was taken from that designation. So with all due respect to the objectors, which they have a right to be here today just like we do, we would also point out to the board that any question or any challenge of our property being zoned as C2 under your 2019 comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance would be not only be raised judicata, but they'd be barred by the statute of limitations. It's 5 years. They had 3. Anybody who wanted to object had 3 years to come do that. Nobody has done that. We would ask, gentlemen, that our application for site plan to construct our convenience store, which is necessarily allowed under your ordinance, be approved. Planning and zoning approved it unanimously. We passed all the criteria to get a site plan approved. The zoning is C2, and there are really no other issues. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I have a few. I recently went back and made sure before I did this, I watched that zoning meeting. Can y'all hear me? I watched the P&Z meeting, and one of the big things I saw was that the people out there felt like they didn't need a gas station because they had 3 others within a very close distance that met their needs. You know, I took it upon myself to reach out to the sheriff's department to see what kind of calls they got out there. They were very helpful, and I appreciate that, Sheriff Tucker. And they also pointed me to the Highway Patrol, since it's Highway 22. They deal with a lot more stuff out there. I have yet to get anything back from them, but I've just been flipping through the 13 pages of stuff that's in that area from the report that the sheriff gave me, and there's lots of interesting things that go on out there. What I didn't see on that list was anybody running out of gas, where sheriff's department had to come out and bring them a gallon of gas so they could get to the next gas station. Also, in my time here, I have spoken to lots of residents out there, and people that own land out there, and I will parrot what I heard in the P&Z is what I heard from all of them, is that as this intersection with the convergence of these roads sits, you know, they don't like to let their kids drive out there. One of my friends has a deer camp out that way, and he's like, I don't even like to let my boy drive out there because that intersection is a death trap. It appears to me, I'm looking at this page 7 of 9 that's attached to the agenda, where the state of Mississippi has come in with some new plans to maybe make it a little safer out there, because they recognize, as it sits right now, that that area is gets an exorbitant amount of calls just for safety. And, you know, as it sits right now, that is my biggest concern. I am not going to have blood on my hands with a vote that ends up in somebody being hurt because of a gas station. I mean, I may reconsider once some work is done to alleviate those problems, but right now, zoning or no zoning, this is just not a safe area with a gas station there, open from who knows when to who knows when, with lots of extra big trucks coming in the area. I don't think it's a good idea. And like I said, I just don't think it would survive. Nobody apparently out there needs gas right down the street. And I want businesses in our county to thrive.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Smith?
Yeah, what is the hours of operation? What's the planned
I would assume
hours?
they'd be the county's hours of operation. There's no overlay district on this particular piece of property.
You know, Mr. Smith, and I think you are presenting to us an argument on the zoning. And I understand that. I understand that it's zone C2. And the convenience stores are permitted in C2. So I agree with that. But I also agree with Supervisor Bannon. My main concern with this whole issue is the safety of that intersection. And I think I spoke to your developer and told him the same thing. You know, until we can get MDOT and Madison County on a page that makes this intersection safe, whether there's a convenience store there or not, then I'm not interested in giving anyone permission to build anything in there until that happens. And, you know, I talked to our traffic engineer, and he said, you know, we've got something that he did in our booklet somewhere that we glossed over. But I'm more interested in trying to see what we can do to make this intersection safe, whether there's a convenience store there or not. I go through it, and I understand. I haven't had a wreck yet, luckily, but I understand what the people are concerned about. Now, I've had talked to folks about having the convenience store there, and I think that your developer is doing his best to add the necessary directional lighting and all those things. But I don't, you know, in my opinion, the intersection isn't safe. And having something that will draw cars into that intersection. Somebody say, we don't, you know, might not, you don't need another service gas station out there. Well, you know, I can't deal with, you know, that's up to him, because he's got commercial property. Whether he is successful or not successful, that's not something that I can deal with. That's not part of what we do here. But we do deal with safety. So until we can get something done with this intersection, and I work real hard to try to make sure we get that done. We're going to meet with MDOT, and we're going to try to get something done. But until we get something done with the intersection, I'm not interested in a convenience store being there.
Mr. Banks, I appreciate your comments very much, and I don't disregard them at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate the objectors' comments that you'll hear coming forward.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a rule of law in this entire United States that I've lived by, and then most all other lawyers who've done any land use litigation have lived by. And it's a simple matter, and it's this. An individual has the right to use his property for its lawfully zoned use. And that's all we're about here today. We're not here about making anything unsafe, about traffic or anything else. This man relied on the county's zoning map, the county's actions, the zoning of this property. He bought the property based on that. And under our law in Mississippi, he has a right to do that and to build or use it for uses that are allowed under the Madison County zoning ordinance. You know, I put in your packet a proposed realignment of Highway 22. I believe the safety engineers are aware of that, traffic engineer. And that's going to be up to the state of Mississippi and or Madison County to request it. But I don't think that because something is speculative, a wreck may happen, maybe something here, something there. I just don't respectfully believe that the county can make its decision based on something that could or might happen, because that would be arbitrary and capricious. That means there's no basis under your ordinance, under your zoning, or anything else of Madison County to deny our request for the application. You know, this facility would be at the intersection of Stokes Road and Vernon Livingston Road. It would not be on 22 or near to 22. So you don't have that traffic to deal with. And again, I was specific to point out, our location would not allow entrance onto 22 or exit off of 22. So the 95% of the traffic out there, I believe, is probably going to be on 22. And the traffic report is not against our particular location because of increased traffic. Truth is, the people are going to be stopping at our store would be coming from Canton through there to Floor and Floor to Canton, or from our location to 463. The traffic's virtually going to be the same. And so I just want, in representation of my client, I just wanted to advise the board of this fact. We do have the C2 zoning. We do have a right to use it. We have gotten site plan approval from planning and zoning. And in the light of your comments, Mr. Banks, we would ask that if our project is approved, that the county would go forward to seek the realignment that's been suggested by the traffic engineer from the state of Mississippi. We'd be very willing to participate in that and push for that and contribute to that. We don't disregard that. I'm just here because we've been approved. We're specifically permitted. We're C2, and we'd like to ask our application be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Any others that would like to speak in favor?
When did the developer purchase the property? Has the property been purchased by the developer?
I'm sorry, Mr. Baxter, I didn't hear.
Has the property been purchased by the developer?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. How long has he had that property out there, do you know?
July 23, when the deed was recorded.
July of 23?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the lady who had it before that had bought it in 2008, and it was C2 all the way back to that. She sold it to the Betty family.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Smith? If not, anyone else would like to speak in favor? If not, anyone would like to speak in opposition?
Oh, sure.
Again, we're still in the public hearing phase of this, so if you would come and state your name and give your address in a couple of minutes, please.
Mr. President, members of the board, sheriff, learned council, administrator. My name is John Arthur Eves. I'm honored to be living in Madison County. I've been all over the world and lived in Clinton, Brandon, and chose to live here in Madison. I've lived at 3 places here in Madison. I have a house in Reunion currently. I live in my dad's house on Green Oak, and I have lived at Andover subdivision. Today I'm here primarily compelled by the residents of Andover subdivision who are concerned about the safety of this development. And I'd just like to say that Madison has always been the best place in the world to live. I congratulate you on your recent making it the best place to work in the country. So I'm honored to do that. As I listen to the comments today, most of my concerns have already been articulated by you, who obviously you've already been listening to the people you serve with regard to safety, approval. This place, when we developed Andover, when my dad developed Andover, he advertised it as a place. On his radio ad, he had crickets sounding, and it was the reason so many people called him, because there's so much chaos in our lives now, work, business, play, kids, whatever, that the people there wanted to have a place to retreat. And I just wanted to, as you, the visionaries of Madison County, move this county forward in economic development, that is a tremendous thing. But I also thank you for protecting what's made Madison special and unique in its ability to hometown feel, sense of community, and peace of mind, and ability to kind of get away from the pressures of life. But that being said, after all the comments I have heard, I think that there's a lot of discretion here that you still have. There's a lot of ambiguity that this was never requested to be Zone C2. There are a lot of arguments, legal arguments here about trying to force the Board of Supervisors, saying you have to do this. I just want to tell you, you have one of the best lawyers here in the country who can help you sort through these ideas and willing to offer the Eves Law Firm services if you choose to deny this application. We would love to do a pro bono practice helping you with the appeal and protecting your right to make these decisions on behalf of the people of Madison County. There are a lot of people here that want to speak besides me that are very concerned about this, and so I'm going to turn it over to them, but thank you very much for all you do.
I got a question.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is that exemption still being filed on this property? Is there a homestead filing on this?
I do not know the answer to that.
No?
I do not answer.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eves.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? If you would, please come up, state your name, give your address, and 2 minutes, please, sir. We're going to need to stick to the 2 minute.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Board. My name's Sam Martin. I'm an attorney in Jackson, but I live at 128 Stokes Road, Flora. That's Mr. Banks' district. To put that into perspective, it's within 500 feet of this proposed development. Naturally, I have some major concerns about a gas station going in right next door to my home, but it's also right next door to a church that has been there for generations and next to many homes that are zoned residential estate. I think there are legal arguments here. I'll try to be very, very quick because there's a lot of legal arguments here. There's also a lot of factual arguments. But primarily, it's been stated that that this has been zoned commercial for 50 years. I think that's what Mr. Smith stated. Excuse me. But the Attorney General was presented with a similar set of facts in 2015, and I'll be happy to provide a copy of this for evidence. But the facts were that the DeSoto County Supervisors were asked to rezone a property that at one point was M2 to agriculture. And so at some point, similar to here, the DeSoto County Board of Supervisors zoned the map, the zoning map, changed it to A2. The property owner, similar to here, did not submit a request for the property to be rezoned. And the Attorney General stated the question, similar to here, can a piece of property be rezoned by way of the Board of Supervisors updating the official zoning map after providing the requisite notice in accordance with the applicable zoning ordinance? The response was no. A county cannot amend a zoning ordinance or rezone a property by merely updating the official zoning map after providing the notice in accordance with applicable zoning ordinances. So again, here, I recognize that the zoning map has said this property was C2 for many years. However, the owner, similar to this case, never requested that it be rezoned. Again, zoning map and a zoning ordinance are two different things. Zoning map may be convenient, but simply put, that doesn't mean that the property ever was officially zoned through the board many years ago. And I recognize that it's a lot to say in 2 minutes, but from the zoning ordinance, our zoning ordinance, and I want to read it because I think it's important. The purpose of the site plan review are to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of the county, to ensure that structures are built in accordance with provisions of this ordinance and the standard building code, to conserve the value of existing buildings and structures, to prevent excessive dissimilarity and inappropriateness or poor quality of design and the exterior appearance of structures, to prohibit unsightly and unsuitable structures that would be out of harmony or incongruent with existing visual features within the district, and to prevent harm and damage to the county, which will result from the absence of such review and manifest itself by A, lower property values, B, decreased economic growth, or C, diminished future opportunities for land use and development. And that's Rule 807.01 of y'all's zoning ordinance. And I would submit that if a gas station is allowed to go in here, it would do all three of those things. And if you look at the zoning map that has been referred to here today, there's only one other area in the entire county that's zoned residential estate that's next to a C2 with a gas station. That's at the intersection of the Pat Lookett Road and Highway 16 in the northeastern part of the county. In all fairness to that area is not experiencing the same growth that this area is. In addition to that, that area it has a very small parcel there that's residential estate compared to here where there's 40 or 50 parcels that are residential estate and where it's next to Highway 22 and next to a church. Again, it's simple here. There's a reason why it has not been done in the county many times. It's because it simply doesn't fit. We're asking you all to consider that and consider the many constituents here that are against this. Thank you for your time.
Sam, before you sit down, I would like to entertain a motion to enter the AG's opinion that you stated from 2015.
Yes, Mr. President.
If you would, do you have a copy to give to the?
I left all my copies in the car. I apologize. I have one copy. I'll be happy to make copies for you if that would work, or I'll give you this copy.
If you would, just give the copy to the Chancery Clerk.
Mr. Steen, that AG's opinion is in our planning and zoning minutes, so.
Let's go ahead and enter it as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I made the motion. Go
Got a
ahead.
motion, Mr. Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Baxter. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Sam. Anyone else would like to speak? Please come up and state your name, address, and a couple of minutes, please.
Yes. My name is Eleanor Sutherland. My address is 3695 Highway 22, Flora, technically. I live very close to the Livingston Township. I did not plan to say anything, but I have to. I actually have personal experience with the lack of safety in that intersection. In September of 2019, my son was going to class at MC. He was going 50 miles per hour. He had a seatbelt on, and he was not on his cell phone. And a woman came driving on Livingston Vernon Road, that very section that we're talking about. She ran the stop sign and had a head-on collision with my son. And if he had not been in a large tundra, he probably would have died. So there is a real, not speculative, concern for safety right there. And the impression has been given that the proposed gas station is set so far back from 22 that it shouldn't be an issue, but that's just not true. It's very close. You can see the site from 22. That little intersection kind of forms a triangle. 22, Livingston Vernon Road, where Stokes Road comes in, that's very small. Right. It's not like it's this large area where you can't even see the proposed site. It's very, very close to 22. So the fact that it's set off is, I don't think, because of the proximity, I don't think you can really claim that it won't affect any traffic on 22, because it really did for my family. Fortunately, my son's okay, but it may have been very different. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you. Are there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? If you would, please come up, state your name, address, a couple of minutes, please.
Good morning. Toby Trowbridge, 207 Agency Burn, Ridgeland. Own property, own, as a matter of fact, Gray Trowbridge Road, Old Jackson Cemetery Road, about a quarter of a mile south of Highway 22 on Cedar Hill. Lived in Cedar Hill for, well, we just call it 40 years since I have dual residency in Mr. Steen's deal and Mr. Banks' district. Gentlemen, I'm just going to talk to you as a layman. You've had some good attorneys. I've known Mr. Smith for a long time, and I suggest you don't stand out on the side of Livingston Vernon Road. And be called in the Baldwin Funeral Home or one of them over there for you. A couple of things is, in the appeal to the zoning, they informed us about the maps that the board could do this and do that with the zoning. I asked to see the written notice where the board put it in the paper legally and to be done. And I was told that that could not be gotten to me. I don't know if it doesn't exist. I don't know if it's lost. But where I come from, if it's not in the report, it didn't happen. I'd be glad to see if you all, if you can find it somewhere. But I wasn't able to see it. That might have settled a lot of stuff. Gentlemen, I don't even allow my granddaughter, who lives on Cedar Hill Road, to go up on Highway 22. She has to go down through Gus Green, down to 463, and get on to go to Madison Central. You cannot get on Highway 22 from Cedar Hill Road without launching. I mean, you literally have to launch. They're running 65, 70, 75 miles an hour on Highway 22. When they leave 22 onto Livingston Vernon, they still have the gear and the flaps up, if you want to know the truth about it. And anybody that pulls out of that service station is going to get run over. I'm telling you, if you don't, either that or you're going to put a stoplight somewhere out there. And we all know about how it is in the county. You have trouble with folks with stoplights, stop signs, and everything. I urge you that when a car comes from Flora and tries to make a north turn, they're headed east, they got to make almost 120-degree turn back to the north to get to this service station. It doesn't work. It's just not going to work. And I appreciate it. I'll just tell you, I would like to see all the paperwork for my mind's made up that it is C2. Because like I say, I hadn't been shown anything that y'all had a notice, put it in the paper, and voted on it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sheriff. Are there anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Very briefly.
Yes, sir.
I'm Dwayne Moak. I live at 221 Highland Meadow Road in Flora. I've been out there since around 95. My road was gravel, and we didn't even have power where I built my house and then, but now we're next door neighbors to a lot of people. But it's a great area to be in. The issue on whether it's properly zoned C2 or not is probably an issue that will never get settled in all reality. But the way I look at it is, if a mistake was made or it wasn't done properly in the beginning, does continuing to recognize that mistake or that improper work, does that make it right? Is it arbitrarily correct if it wasn't done right in the beginning because it's been accepted since then? I would say you set the example of that when you corrected a problem with the city of Canton here with money being returned to them. That was an error made at that time. You fixed the problem. Now, whether this was on C2 properly or not, I don't know, but there is some doubt. As far as the traffic out there, well, one of the things, let me back up. One of the things I mentioned at the planning and zoning was the fact that you have commercial facilities in Flora, you have commercial facilities in Livingston, you have commercial facilities at Kearney Park. I'm not against commercial business. My wife and I both have businesses. In one respect, you could look at it, putting that there is going to hurt all three of those places. It's going to take a little business away from them. I don't know that that's a valid argument or not. But another way to look at it is you've got people that will be stopping there that would have stopped in Livingston or could have stopped in Livingston and Kearney Park and Flora that will be stopping there potentially. And they're going into an area where there's an S curve on Highway 22, where you've got intersections from Cedar Hill Road, Livingston Vernon Road, a private kind of cut-through drive. You've got a mess when it comes to entering and exiting Highway 22 right there. The property that they're talking about is not on 22. True enough, their exits and entrances will not actually be on 22. But they're in such close proximity that it's going to be affected by the traffic on 22 and vice versa on the traffic leaving the service station. I have over the years assisted with accidents that have been at that location or all those locations, and it is a very dangerous area. Hopefully it will be corrected one day. Other than living in the area and understanding the conditions that we're dealing with out there, those are my 2 points that I want to make, that I don't think it's a conducive spot for this facility to be placed.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other who'd like to speak? Come on up and state your name, give address, in 2 minutes, please.
My name is Cherry Deddens. I live on Highway 22. My address actually is Persimmon Lane off of Highway 22. I want you all to know I've lived on 22 for 30 years, actually 27. I see the log trucks flying by every day. I now see Amazon trucks flying by every day. I worry about my grandchildren every time they get on Highway 22 going to school. It's unsafe. That curve down there on Livingston Vernon and Stokes Road and Cedar Hill and the church is a terribly designed curve. You can't see who's coming either way. Somebody's going to be hurt. Wrong place, wrong time. I'd also like to read you something that I found in this book that Abraham Lincoln said in his Gettysburg Address. He said, God shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. We, the people, have spoken. Nobody out there wants this project. There are hundreds of people that have signed a petition saying no to this project. I want you all to take that into consideration, and I know that Mr. Steen would object to this project going at the corner of the entrance to Bridgewater and Steed Road. I'm sure that he would vote against that. We're asking you to do the same thing for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Anyone else would like to speak in opposition? If not, I'll give Ms. Smith the closing word.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, everybody here has the privilege, we have the privilege of living in America, and I think the privilege of living in Mississippi. And if you stop and think about it, our country, thank God, is a country of laws. We don't have a dictator. We don't have a zealot. We don't have a czar. But we have laws that we agree to abide by every day. And Sheriff Tucker is here to advise us of that. The law in this case is that a man bought a piece of property, paid a lot of money for it. He relied on what the people's representatives did in open public meeting published in the newspaper to zone the property designated as C2, which would allow for a convenience store. And that was regardless of everything else that's been said today. That was in spite of everything else that's been said today. If you put yourself in my client's position and you rely on what the governing body did, lawfully did, and you spent tens of thousands of dollars buying property to use it for what this local governing authority said you could use it for, undeniably, it's permitted outright. And then you came and you found out that a bunch of what ifs, could be's, don't likes, need tos, and want us can prevent you from using your property for its lawfully zoned use. Now, if you want to know something that's not right, that's not right. And if you put yourself in my client's shoes or anybody else's shoes out here, if any of these people did this, relied on the law and bought the property, and now because of a bunch of what ifs, you can't use it. That's not lawful, gentlemen. I'm here to tell you today, regardless of everything that's been said, and I don't discount one bit of it, To deny this permit would be arbitrary and capricious conduct because I've not heard one substantive comment under the law that would allow you to deny it. P&Z approved it. They looked at all the criteria for site plan approval. They required everything to be done. And they verified that it's been zoned C2. I want to say this: if everybody relied upon the argument of the objectors regarding the zoning of property, hell, you'd never be able to verify the zoning on any property. So you have to put that, you have to take that in consideration. The two people who know the zoning have verified the zoning. That's not an issue. And so, gentlemen, I humbly and respectfully ask that our permit be approved because there's no lawful or factual basis to deny it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. All right, that's the last we're going to hear of the public hearing at this point. So, yes, sir. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Move.
Got a motion from Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Okay, we've heard, what the pros and cons. What's the wishes of the board? Mr. Banks?
As I stated, and that Attorney Smith is very good at what he does. But as I stated, my argument, or in terms of them building a convenience store on commercial property, I feel that the property is commercial. But I'm looking for a mechanism where I'm looking at a concept of changing the alignment of 22. And before I would want to issue a building permit, I want to go ahead and move forward with the realignment of 22 to make that area safer. When I first ran, there was a little store there on that property. So I know it's been used as a store. I'm not concerned about it being used as a store as much as I'm concerned about the safety. I have turned into Livingston Vernon in a hurry, not paying attention very much to my speed. And I know that by the time I passed Stokes Road, I was running 70 miles an hour. Now, Sheriff, that was...
He said he's exaggerating a little.
I've been here a long time, so that was in my youth. But anyway, and of course, and what near as many houses there when I first went out to Magnolia Heights. I remember wasn't any houses there. But anyway, I would like for us to be able to work on the realignment of 22. And before that, any building permits, any new building permits be presented or made by our planning and zoning department, all building right there in that area should be suspended until we can get 22 realignment.
What is your motion?
That's it. That's it.
Are you talking about suspending it, tabling it, vote it down?
I'm not.
Make your motion clear.
My motion is to suspend the issuance of building permits.
Okay.
In the area where we want to realign 22 to make it safe.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Wait, I got a second so this isn't an outright denial, it's just a delay.
Yeah.
You second the motion, though.
I feel it's commercial. It is commercial property. And I think he's going to have a right to build at some point. But we should protect the citizens out there and make it safe.
How does this work, Counselor? Or we're not denying, it's just a delay. We're in some gray area.
Andy, would you come up and answer Supervisor Baxter's question, please?
I think if that that motion's obviously been seconded, and ultimately, if that is approved and that is the will of the board, then that is not a flat, outright denial or objection. it's basically what you've asked for, Supervisor Banks, is a moratorium. So in that instance, that is not an approval and it is not a denial of the site plan, which is in front of you today. You're essentially tabling with no true return date to address, and suspending all building activities in that area. If you're going to do that, I would ask that you specifically confine what area you are. You can do it by boundary of roads or whatever it is that you're going to do.
Well, I mean, it's defined by the Stokes Road, Livingston, Vernon, 22 interchange.
Okay. That was what I would ask you to clarify.
Could I add something?
Mm-hmm.
For the purpose of the record, and the record is being made, so I think the motion is proper. I would like you to add to your motion the reason for your motion, and that is your concern about safety issues, protection of the traveling public, which is a proper concern. So if anybody chooses to file a grievance against this motion, then the response would be that it is not arbitrary and capricious because the board has a right to protect the roads and the traveling public. So it's not arbitrary and capricious, it is certain. So if you would include that in your motion, I think that's a proper motion and it's legally defensible.
Well, I thought that was part of my motion. I was discussing the motion I was making was particularly because of the safety issue that is the number one issue that I heard here in this meeting today, and what I've been hearing for the last few months. You know, arguing about whether or not it was commercial. That's something that doesn't have anything to do with safety. But I'm concerned about the safety, and I know that road, so that is a part of my motion, and the reason for my motion.
Ronnie, you got that?
Yes, sir.
One additional question I would ask Supervisor Banks for clarification. Obviously, you've said until there is some action, are you making that as an initiative for any county employee to seek that from the state?
Yeah, the intention, Attorney, is that we're going to meet with Mr. Willie Simmons, our commissioner for MDOT. We're going to be discussing this. We've already made some phone calls. We're going to have our traffic engineer, and we're going to. I want to change this.
I knew I'd get some questions on that, so that gives me something to respond with. Thank
I'm
you.
hoping that we can do as quickly as possible, but you know, quickly as possible means within the next year or two.
Understood. All right, other questions? All right, we have a motion on the table, second, and Ronnie, do you mind repeating that motion?
I'm working on it, sir.
You working on the motion?
Yes, sir.
That was a long one.
Okay.
1 second.
I think we get the gist of the motion, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I broke this down into the motion, which Mr. Banks made, and at his correction. Suspend all building permits at the intersection of Livingston, Vernon, and Stokes Road until the realignment of Highway 22 is addressed because of safety issues. Is that your motion? Does it need to have something else added to that, Mr. Espy?
Nope.
Okay.
That's a good motion.
Got a motion, Mr. Banks,
That's your
second by
second.
Supervisor Baxter.
That's your second, Mr. Baxter, in that motion? Yes.
Because of safety concerns.
Yeah.
Because of safety concerns, okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right, all in favor? Say aye. All opposed?
Okay.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item 5. Do I have a motion to put the zoning minutes? Minutes. Got a motion, Supervisor Griffith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Consent items. Would anyone like to remove any item on the consent? If not, do I have a motion? Motion, Supervisor
I'll
Griffith.
second that.
Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Supervisors, Supervisor Baxter.
I'd like to acknowledge the resignation of Russ Latino from the Madison County Citizen Services Board.
Second.
Got a motion by Supervisor Baxter, second Supervisor Banks. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
And I would like to appoint Shannon Francis to take District 2's position on the Citizen Services Board.
Got a motion, I'll second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Mr. Banks?
I'd like to appoint reappoint Will Sly to the County Citizen Services Agency.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Griffin. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? CJ? CJ, I should have taken you earlier when you was up here, but
Well, he wanted to.
failed to do so.
He wanted to sit in.
Well, I did want to see, the consent items. And first off, I appreciate y'all's support for the additional compensation for my office. It's well-deserved, and I know there's some grateful folks down the hall, so I appreciate that. Secondly, as you see on the agenda, I just needed approval to request a vehicle. The collector's office currently has no vehicles, and I'm being pulled in plenty of air. Okay, go ahead.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Baxter. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you, CJ, and
Good presentation.
I know you got a lot going on. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Tim. Item 39.
This is the reapproval of a previously approved preliminary plat. This is for the Lakes of Stapleton. This was originally approved in 2021, but according to our subdivision regulations, if the building of the subdivision doesn't happen within a year, we have to bring it back before the board. Nothing has changed. We just ask that the board reapprove the originally approved subdivision plat.
Do I have a motion?
Where's this at?
Oh, boy.
Stapleton Lake.
Don't tell me that.
It's just north of Simon Road.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yep. Yeah, this is the second phase of Stapleton, isn't it? That's right.
Hey, man.
Yeah, no problem. I take leftovers and prove it. Make the motion to approve.
I got a motion, Supervisor Griffin, second Supervisor Banks. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Tim?
All right, next item is supplemental agreement number 1 to the Bozeman Road Phase 2 project. This is a supplemental agreement to the contract of Neil Schaefer for $345,435. This is for the right-of-way acquisition phase of this. This is, I would say over half of this does not go to Neil Schaefer. It goes to our right-of-way acquisition folks, but we're putting that under the engineering contract for this project so that the engineers and the right-of-way agents can better coordinate the project.
Which pot of money does this come from?
It'll come out of the, it'll come out of county funds. We don't have any other funds for Bozeman Phase 2.
Okay. I'll make a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, got a motion, second Supervisor Banks. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
All right. Next item is supplemental agreement 3 to the Bozeman Phase 1 project. This is with Neil Schaefer as well. This is for $69,320. This is to do the work that the board approved at the last meeting, which was to re-advertise the project as a whole and then to divide the project out as 2 different phases. The reason that we were going to do that is so that we could bid it out and find out what it was going to be as originally bid, and then we could divide it out, take out the bike trail, and put it as 2 separate projects. This would allow us to take out the federal money, which would take out some of the requirements and potentially allow us to decrease the costs of each phase of this project. So that's the reason for the cost for the engineer, because they need to go in and make what was 1 project into 3 projects and then bid 3 different projects.
And Tim, that would also decrease the time on this as well.
It could potentially, yes.
If it goes down that road, and that's what these options were about, is to really get Bozeman Road going as fast as we could.
Yes, sir.
Without
It
going
could do
through
that.
red tape with
Okay.
the feds. And so, I'll make a motion
A
for
second.
approval. Got a second, Supervisor Banks, discussion?
I have just a moment of discussion.
Okay.
I've already made myself clear on what I think about splitting these projects up. I can't support this. I'm not going to go into it. We've already heard everything.
Right.
Just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Any other? And again, this is really give smaller companies an opportunity to come in and bid that may not can handle large projects. Also to remove some red tape to get these projects started sooner. Hopefully that option is going to be on the table and come back to us, within 40, 50, 60 days. So
I would like to say one thing. I believe that we went to the legislature, state and federal, with a specific project in mind, presented it for years now, and to change the scope of the project, from what I'm hearing from our delegation, could be a little disingenuous. So going forward, when we go down there, they're going to be a little bit more skeptical than they have in the past, and they've been a great deal of help.
all right, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Item 42.
Item 42 is the 2024 funded road plan. And as a part of this, I guess that I need to actually bring, before I bring the funded road plan, is to bring before you the following roads as part of the 2024 Madison County Road Plan, those being Autumn Oak, Fontanelle, Griffin Road, Madison Avenue, Sycamore Ridge, Church Lane, and Rocky Hill Road. And the 2024 funded road plan is attached to this agenda item, which you all, I believe, have.
I'd like to add to that funded list, Robson Springs Road, which you sent me that information, and Joe Hall Road.
Okay. You would like to add those
two
to the attached.
Joe Hall. I'd like to add those two roads to this 2024 funded plan and move to approve the plan with those additions.
All right, got a motion, do I have a second?
Second, and with make sure I'm understanding it right, Tim, are those roads you call out up here, those are part of the funded list, right?
Yes, sir. Those are roads that were not on the originally approved road plan that was presented at the first meeting in February.
All right.
So wait a second, what breakdown, do you have the breakdown by districts on this road plan?
I do not. They're in alphabetical order on the road plan.
Actually, it's a county road plan. It's really not by districts at all.
I'm doing math on these real quick, and Carl.
Yeah.
Right now, your Robinson Springs Road is at 655 plus 70, so that's what, 700 and some odd
Really?
dollars, and Joe Hall is 580 plus another 60. So
really,
according to the sheet that Tim sent out the other week, I'm concerned that goes over our 5 million. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The roads as presented do go over $5 million.
Okay.
Those two, because of those two.
Well, those, I
right
believe
now
those
we're
two.
right around with
Yes, sir.
one,
Those two are over $5 million.
3 and 5.
Mhm.
We're at what, right around 4 million, give or take? I don't have that. I didn't add all these up.
What is the total amount?
Should be, yes. If you've got 4 districts in, should be right around $4 million. We borrowed 5.1.
What is
but
the
100,000.
What is the total amount with the 2 roads that this added?
Oh gosh.
Right around 1.2.
No, I'm talking about the total amount of the road plan, funded road plan.
Oh, it'll be a little north of $5 million.
Yeah, it's going to be 1, 1.15, 3.76.
So Carl's additions are 1.365 million.
Really?
It's gonna be about
Trying to get it down to 1.2.
Good to me. Yeah, roughly 5.3.
And I'm not giving you a hard time.
About 5.3.
That's
I'm
guesstimation.
We have a motion on the table. We have a second. Who seconded that motion?
I did that, I'll be able to do.
All right, we have a motion on the table, have a second. Total amount for funded road plan is 5.3.
Roughly 5.3, yes, sir.
Okay, other discussion?
Yep, guys, I just suggest that we do our homework, before meeting, especially when you come down the road plan, we could have had this figured out, went through just like that. So, go ahead.
You know, nothing's gonna be perfect. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed.
$300,000.
Yeah, nothing's gonna be perfect, you know, so. All right, Tim.
All right, the final item I have is the request for permission to approve the subcontract for Hemp Hill Construction for Site Support Group on Reunion Phase 2. And get the board president to sign the RPS 1 form.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Move.
Motion Supervisor Banks. I'll second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Tim, before you sit down, I wanted a quick discussion with you. When I came in office, my goals that I set were economic development, which we've done pretty well on, road construction and public safety. Carl brought up a project that North County Line Road. Have you put together, I know you probably haven't, but just in case I'm asking, have you got any cost estimates or the various pots of money we can go to, CMPD, federal government, state, or where are you in the process of putting this project together, or is this the first you've heard of it? 'Cause
Was it north or was it west?
west?
Well, I think he's talking about North Carolina Road, which is something that we have discussed, going by, what's the solid waste dump there.
Right.
Now, what I brought up earlier, I was talking about getting started on 5-laning County Line Road going west from the railroad tracks on State Street going west. And those are kind of two separate projects. But we were already on the, I think, dealing a few months back talking about doing North Carolina.
Is that something that would be a co-project with Hines County?
It would be.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I know when I have to build a fence between my property and my neighbors, we both pay for it typically.
Yeah.
Not
That's
only
what
with
we're talking
Hines,
about.
it'd also be with a couple of other companies as well that would come in and support that overlay or repair as well. And I think that's, hopefully, is moving forward in some stance.
So I guess my question is, do we need a motion to move forward more efficiently on this project, or do you need what you have to move forward on North?
I guess I'm still confused. Are we talking about North County Line or are we talking about West County Line? North County Line. We do have an estimate on North County Line. I have worked with the Hines County engineer, Murray Stewart, on it. We've have agreed on what we think it would cost to fix that. We have not spoken in a while. I don't know where that is. It was left
sure
at the supervisor level between you all and the Hines County supervisors to discuss it, and I haven't been told anything different, but we'll do whatever you all want me to do at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it is either since last December or something of that nature.
Right, that's about the last time I had heard anything about it.
But there needs to be some kind of movement to move forward with it. And
Well, really, they got a new majority board down there in Hines County.
Yeah, but
So you got to look at it.
Supervisor Graham is still there, and
He's there.
it's his district, and he had met with me about it, so I'd pick up the phone, just give him a call and see if we can get something back going to make sure both entities will be participating as we had previously discussed.
let's do this then, and Supervisor Baxter, you may want to make the motion or not, is to have Tim to communicate with Hines County, with the Public Works in Hines County, director and to come back with some options with a joint agreement with Hinds County, maybe Madison County, and a couple of other companies out there that's interested in that road being repaired.
Okay.
I'll make that motion for you to communicate with those couple of different, with Hinds County and a couple of different companies out there, Little Dixie for one.
Yeah.
To come back, and also I think there's maybe one more that's interested in helping to repair that road. So that would be my motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And just bring something back to the board, you know,
Okay.
with the cost estimate.
All right, Tim, before you run off, one more thing. We had several conversations about Yandell Road, and I think we talked about what we want to do to it. What is our next step to move that forward?
Well, we've got the current project from the school back towards Highway 51. And then we are waiting on the project to determine if we're getting federal funding for the Weisenberger widening. We'll know that in May. That is our next phase of what we need to do, whether we get federal funds or not. We need to widen.
I'm basically concerned about that North O'Canton to 51.
Okay.
I know we're doing the section there by the school, but what are we talking about on that?
Well, that needs to be our next priority after these. We're doing the intersection of Old Canton and Yandell. But the section in between there and the school needs to be our next priority. And it needs to be 3-laned.
All right. Next priority, what we need to do to get it our next priority.
That's a funding priority, and I believe
But
that is.
we need something to know what we're funding.
Well, we're working on that. That's in our long-range plan, I believe.
We are actively pursuing a long-range plan to present to this board at some point in the next 90 days. Yandell is a part of that long-term plan, but it would include long-term projects for the entire county.
When you're talking long-term plan, how long you talking about?
The long term in this case refers to the length of the borrowing rather than the length of the project, just to clarify. Depending on where it falls in the priority list, it could be started soon, or it could take a couple of years to really get rolling. There's still some variables that Tim and I have to work through before we're able to bring a fully fleshed out plan back to this board.
Supervisor Griffin is they're trying to put together a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan. And that is on one of those plans. I'm not sure which way it'll end up. Also, we have Stribling Road, phase 2 is being proposed on that plan as well, from my understanding.
It is.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason that in the last 30, 45 days, you know, that we're definitely looking at our finances, funding capacity financing, to bring back to this board, and hopefully Greg and Tim reaching out to all the board members or meeting with the board members at some point to go over what they are in the process of putting together. That, and I'm gonna say short-term and mid-range term aggressive plan, because it's several millions of dollars, several millions. And Supervisor Griffin, that road is definitely on that plan as well. But every board member will get an opportunity to look at it and add to it if they choose to.
Now, Greg, are these long-term plans, are they road plans? Are we, because that's where I'm sitting from this. From my perspective in the county needs wider, bigger roads because we're growing.
Currently, the plan does include some non-road projects, but the plan has not been finalized yet.
Right.
If this board comes back and says we don't want to do some of the building projects, well, then we won't do the building
Well, I know
projects.
there's been some concerns about funding in the past and lack of funding, because I just want to make sure we're focused in on roads.
Supervisor Baxter, our intention is
money.
to fulfill the wishes of the board. If those wishes include buildings, we'll build the best darn buildings you've ever seen. If the wishes do not include buildings, then by God, we're gonna build some roads. And we're gonna build over $100 million worth by the time this is all said and done, if
It's
we
very
can figure this
aggressive,
out.
from what I've seen, it's very aggressive.
It is.
The total project list currently is right at about 200 million. So it's going to be a timing issue. There's going to be a whole bunch of variables that go into this.
Right.
But predominantly, it is road projects, yes, sir.
All right.
All right, thank you, Tim.
All right. All righty.
Next, Mike, you have anything else? Greg? You were up. Oh, did I skip Scott? Man, that's,
Yeah, you
that's
skipped.
twice.
Seen enough of Scott today.
Man, that's twice.
You had enough of me already.
2 meetings I've skipped you. I'm sorry. Scott.
Good
Come
morning,
on
Board
up.
of Supervisors. Two quick items. Have a permit refund for Willie M. Ely in the amount of $615.
Move to give
Got a
him back his
motion,
money.
Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Last item, Livingston subdivision. This is a gated public street policy. Livingston Drive 463, Supervisor District 2. They've met all the requirements.
All the requirements? All right, motion.
Got a motion, Supervisor Baxter.
Second.
Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Greg?
Morning, Board. Few things for you today.
Okay.
Item 47 is, I'm requesting you guys authorize me to sign the tree grant paperwork. It's electronic, so it's just easier for me to go in there and click a button than it is for me to print it, sign it, upload it, and do all that.
Move.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks. I'll second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, item 48 is a request to acknowledge a letter from Holmes County. They are interested in surplus sheriff's vehicles, but we are still 2 or 3 months from having surplus sheriff's vehicles. However, they expressed their interest, so I think it's correct for this board to acknowledge their request.
I'll make a motion. Got a second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion.
Hey, Randy, you got an opinion on this?
I would just like for the board to consider all of our municipal departments before we go outside of the county.
Yeah,
No doubt.
definitely.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, item 49 is a request that this board accept a donation. We can argue over the semantics of whether or not it was a donation, but Amazon Web Services has requested this letter, and the only way to get this letter is to have the board approve it.
Got a motion. I'll make a motion for approval. Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, item 50 is 3 CDBG resolutions. These are things that we need before we can pursue a release of funding for the $600,000+ as part of the sewer rehabilitation in the Kearney Park area.
Move.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, 51 is the same thing. It's just not a resolution. It is an environmental justice letter. We've got to have it for the grant.
Move.
Motion, Supervisor Banks. I'll second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, item 53 is a request that the board president be authorized to sign this. This is why it was not on your agenda, because it is a whole lot of pages and the file size is a bit of an issue.
Move.
Is this 52 or 53?
That's 52.
52.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the finding of no significant impact. Sorry, I did skip one. This
yeah.
is just something's got to be published. There's got to be a public comment section.
Move on
Got a
52.
motion, Supervisor Banks. I'll second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Item 53 is what
Item
you have
53
in
is
your
this
hand.
thing. I'm hoping that y'all will authorize
I
board president to
move
sign it.
to authorize the president to sign the signature page.
Got a
Sign it.
motion, Supervisor Banks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, item 54 is a request that this board approve the Massett property and cyber insurance renewal.
I'll make a motion for approval. Second, Supervisor Griffin. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
57 is a request that this board approve landscape architecture agreement with McCrory and Associates. This is so they can tell us where to plant trees, because I am probably the wrong guy to make that call.
Okay, move.
Motion Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Griffin. Discussion? All in favor?
Favor.
Aye. All opposed?
All right, item 56 is broadband Phase 2 task order. This will allow Wagner Engineering to go ahead and get or resume work on Phase 2. They've done some of the preliminaries.
Right.
This gets us through the rest of the preliminaries.
Do I have a motion?
Move.
Motion by Mr. Banks, second Supervisor Griffin. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, and then there was one other item I was asked to give this morning, and that was an update on a couple of construction projects we have around. The first one was the circuit courthouse construction or potential renovation. Supervisor Steen, myself, and Drew met with the judges, circuit judges, and circuit clerk, as well as the architects Friday. Project is moving forward. Well, they were hammering out details of the design. JH&H Architects have they've redrawn it once. They're taking the next round of feedback and are going to redraw it again. We do anticipate if this board elects to, we will have this bid out by the end of the year. They're working on cost estimates, and they're working on all of the construction documents, but we did meet Friday in an attempt to push that project forward.
What's the range of cost? Is there a guesstimate?
It will depend on whether there is additional space added to the building. If there is additional space, you're looking about 22 million. If you're just touching finishes and courtroom tech, it will be considerably less. But the architects will have us a cost estimate prepared by an honest-to-God professional cost estimator at some point in the next couple weeks.
And Tim, I would like to say those numbers you just threw out those numbers haven't been given to us by any architect or anyone else. That's just some discussion that you and I have had.
And we've had a few discussions internally.
So it could easily be a little more or a little less, but I also want to say it's several millions of dollars potential.
It will not be cheap, but it's a very large building, and it is in need of some improvements. So that's what we're exploring there.
So we used is all the space spoken for at the Fred's building?
Fred's, I've got 4,600 untouched square feet. It's just being white box now. That can be used however this board sees fit. It will depend entirely on this board's wishes. Along those lines, we met about the historic courthouse last week as well. And the idea there is their committee will come to y'all with a recommendation at the April 15th meeting. But we did meet with a whole bunch of people, very, very smart in the area of historical preservation, and they've all got ideas, so that committee is just kind of filing through those recommendations and figuring out what the best use is. Now, if we are going to convert that to some space other than a drug court, drug court's got to go somewhere. Again, it'll depend on this board's wishes, but that was one of the ideas that had been explored, was putting the drug courts in the Fred's building and freeing up the historic courthouse for whatever that committee decides the best use is.
Did you ever get a cost estimate on sealing up the floor at the current tax collector's building and putting office space up there?
Not anything official. I believe that it can, well, I know it can be done, and we had preliminary conversations probably a year ago with an architect about it. So that is something that if you'd like, we can certainly continue to explore.
So we have other options than building a $22 million building.
Yeah.
If that is what this board wishes to do, then you are entirely correct, yes. If the board comes back and says we're not interested in adding any space, put them in Fred's, then by God, we'll put them in Fred's.
And that option will come back to us as an option as well.
Correct.
And I mean, that's the way it's planned at this point, is to bring that option back to the board and let the board decide on, hey, do we add or do we not add?
Correct.
So it will be laid out separately.
Correct. That's not a decision for today because we don't know what it's going to cost. But The cost estimator is working on that, and I will gladly bring it back to this board once we have it.
And we're primarily talking about the DA's office.
Correct. That would be that would be most of the addition.
That's
I
right.
think there may be a little bit of addition for some circuit clerk space, but the bulk of the cost would be DA space in the proposed, as it's proposed currently.
Yeah, but then we kind of set aside some room for the DA in the old Fred.
There's
Also?
4,600 square feet, which is about in line with what they have in Rankin County from what I heard Friday. So we're not outside the norm there.
And that decision can be made once everything comes in front of the board as far as the design. Because Supervisor Griffin, that's the option that this board will choose to either build to the current courthouse or not build. And if we choose not to build, then this 4,600 square feet comes into play for the DA's office or for somewhere else.
Sure.
Okay.
And saving money.
You're gonna definitely save some money. There's no doubt.
Perfect. That was it.
If this board decided to go that route.
Anything else?
Thank you for the update,
All right.
Greg. Nasa?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have item number 57, which is the budget amendments and the interfund cash transfer.
I'll make a motion for approval. Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Items 58 and 59 is a general claims docket and one payroll docket.
Do I have a move by Mr. Banks? Do I have a second? I'll second it. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item 60.
Number 60 is the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission for their per diem.
Move.
Got a motion Supervisor Banks, second for Supervisor Baxter, and I just want to make sure again, son, we had a discussion at the last board meeting as far as payment
For the election workers? you're
for
talking
the
about?
election workers. This is not the election workers, though.
This is
is
planning and
zoning.
zoning.
Okay, good deal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ms. Banks, you take item 61.
Okay, item 61, approval of the fleet court bills. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Run it a lot.
Nothing, Mr. Vice President.
Okay. Sheriff Tucker.
Just one item, Mr. President, that the inmate billing for the month of February was $5,355.37, and I'll provide that to the clerk.
Do I have a motion?
Apologize.
Move.
Motion Supervisor Banks, second Supervisor Baxter. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
I need to make a correction, that's January, not February, January 2024.
Sheriff, anything else? Okay. All right, old business. One thing that I would like to say, it's not a motion on old business. I know that there was a statement made at the last board meeting about projects being done, moving forward. Guys, we got a lot of projects coming in front of this board this year, and it's gonna be millions of dollars. Going to be aggressive on roads, infrastructure, buildings that this board is going to be making to move forward with a short-term, 0 to 5 years, and a mid-term, long-range plan. I call it from 0 to 10 years. So this board is very active. It's very expensive, very costly, but we're going to be moving a lot of projects forward if this board decides to move those projects forward. So
I would like to see a list of the projects. I've been pretty clear that road projects, widening roads, paving roads, capacity improvement, intersection improvements is what I am most interested in. I would like to see a list and get together a plan, vote on a plan.
Greg, I think you was contacting the board members the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
To sit down with them, and if you contacted all of them yet?
I have not sat down with all of them. I've had discussions with most.
Okay.
Some had conflicts.
Okay, and the reason I say that is because every board member has the opportunity to call Greg, because Greg has the information. And it's still open, to add to that plan. Because this board is gonna come in front of this board to prioritize those plans. And we're also working with the financial advisor for bonding capacity to see where we can go, because we're gonna have some lean 2 or 3 years there, but we still got to keep these projects moving forward. So I would encourage you to call Greg and go and sit down with him. Instead of just talking with him by telephone, go and sit down with him and look at the projects on paper and let him explain to you, because it's a lot of good projects. All right, new business. If not, we do not have we do not have executive session.
Move we quit for the day.
You move. Well, you're gonna have to do a little better than that. You're gonna have to give us a
Move we
a date.
adjourn until April the 1st.
All right, we've got a motion on the table to adjourn to April the 1st. Do I have a second? Second, Supervisor Baxter, discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
I like my first motion. Quit for the day. Yeah, that's right. We should have had the,